The elderly mother came to the city to visit her pregnant daughter, but when she opened the door, she was shocked.
Hello everyone, enjoy these relaxing moments while you watch.
From the moment darkness still blanketed the sky, Margaret had already woken up. The distant crowing of roosters echoed from the edge of the village of Springfield, where she had lived more than half her life in a small, old house filled with memories. Today was a special day. She was going to New York to visit her daughter after nearly 4 months apart. "She's going to be so surprised," Margaret whispered, her hands trembling as she smoothed out a scarf. She glanced at a small wooden box that held a silver heirloom bracelet passed down from her great-grandmother. "She's a mother now. It's time for her to have this." Her neighbor, Mr. Mike, driving his old truck, whistled as he pulled up in front of her house. "Margaret. Come on. New York's waiting," he called out cheerfully, helping her load several gift baskets into the truck. On the road, Margaret's mind wandered, picturing Emily opening the door, her face glowing, one hand resting on her pregnant belly, standing beside Jason, her son-in-law whom Margaret had once liked for his respectful manners. She imagined Jason giving a polite nod, then all three embracing in the sunlit hallway of the high-rise apartment. She gently clutched the small box holding the silver bracelet. "My grandchild. I'll place my hand on their forehead and say a traditional blessing, just like my grandmother did." The truck stopped in front of the apartment building on Main Street. Mr. Mike helped carry her things up to the 3rd floor, then said goodbye. "I'll wait at the cafe across the street, all right? Just call me when you're ready to leave." "No rush," he said, his eyes reflecting concern as he glanced at the quiet building. "Thank you, Mike. I'll just be here a few hours." Margaret stood in front of apartment 3B, her heart pounding. She reached out and pressed the doorbell once. No answer. She pressed it again. Still silence. She tried the doorknob. It was slightly ajar. A sliver of dim light escaped from within, but the interior was shrouded in darkness. A wave of mold and spoiled food struck her face. From the inside, the television blared with a man's angry voice. "Lies. It's all lies. She tricked me. That baby, it's not mine." Margaret pushed the door open wider, her hands shaking. "Emily," her voice cracked. No response. She stepped inside. The living room was a mess, blankets scattered everywhere, empty takeout boxes strewn about, curtains drawn tight. A shattered glass on the floor was stained with dried blood. "My God. Emily," she called louder, panic rising. Then she saw her daughter slumped on the floor, leaning against the couch. Emily's nightgown was wrinkled, stained with dried blood on her stomach and shoulder. One cheek was bruised, her hair matted with sweat. Her hand cradled her belly as if protecting something. Her eyes were half open, but lifeless. "Emily. Oh my God. What happened to you?" Margaret rushed to her, embracing her daughter, sobbing aloud. Emily whispered weakly, "Don't shout, Mom, the neighbors will hear. They already think I'm trash." "What are you saying? Who did this to you? Where's Jason?" Margaret shook her, tears falling uncontrollably. Emily didn't answer. She simply reached under a pillow and pulled out 2 items, a crumpled envelope and a black USB flash drive. She handed them to her mother with a bruised hand. "Watch it. Everything is in there," Emily whispered. "I have nothing left to hide." Margaret plugged the USB into her laptop. A recording played. Jason's voice echoed through the speakers, arrogant and crude. "You want me to get promoted? Just please that old man for one night. No one will ever know. Be smart, and by morning, you'll still be the perfect wife." Margaret froze. She covered her mouth and stepped back, hands trembling. Emily looked up at her mother, her voice strained. "I didn't want to. I was forced. That day, I thought it was just a company party." She began recounting the images that were carved into her memory like stone. I had one glass of wine. Then Jason winked at someone. I started feeling dizzy. Everything went blurry. When I woke up, I was in a strange room. My clothes were disheveled. That man Howard, the CEO, was lying next to me. I panicked. But Jason was all smiles, bragging that he'd just been promoted to deputy manager a few days later. Emily. Oh dear God, Margaret whispered. He took you to that old man. Why yes, her voice faded. I found out I was pregnant 2 weeks later. Jason said. I could keep it, but not to say it's his. Margaret stood like a statue. Her eyes locked on her daughter, the daughter she had raised with all her love and hope. The apartment now felt like a prison. Jason's voice from the TV still echoed like a dagger cutting into her soul. Emily, why didn't you tell me? Why suffer alone? Emily only cried. I wanted to tell you, so many times. But he always said, if you talk, your mom will die from shame. I was scared. I didn't want to hurt you. After a moment, Margaret stood up and gently wiped the blood from her daughter's body. We're going to the police. We'll report everything. I'm here now. I won't let anyone hurt you again. No, Mom, we can't, Emily clutched her hand. Jason has money. The media. Lawyers. You think I haven't tried? Margaret fell silent. Inside her, a storm of fury raged. But beyond the rage was helplessness. She gripped her daughter's hand, her eyes red with tears. You still have me. As long as I'm alive, I'll stand with you. The room was quiet. Only the TV kept playing Jason's live stream. This time, he looked directly into the camera, his eyes dramatic. She betrayed me. I loved my wife, my child, but she lied. I can't stay silent any longer. Margaret couldn't take it anymore. She turned off the TV, then looked at Emily. Pack your things. We're leaving. You can't stay in this place, it's turned you into a ghost. But Emily shook her head. I'm not going anywhere. Everyone out there believes him. They'll look at me and think, that's the woman who slept with her boss for power. This is the only place I have left. A moment later, there was a knock. It was Mrs. Linda, the neighbor. She looked at Margaret with concern. Mrs. Margaret. I heard Emily crying. Do you need anything? Margaret choked back tears and nodded. Could I borrow some salt? And, maybe a little peppermint tea? My daughter's not well. Linda looked at Emily, then whispered, I believe her. She used to help me watch my kid. No one's perfect, but Jason, he's a damn good actor. She placed a tea bag in Margaret's hand and murmured, be careful, ma'am. New York isn't as gentle as Springfield. Margaret nodded. The door closed behind Linda, leaving the two women, a mother and daughter, alone in the dark, a place where justice and truth seemed to have long abandoned them. The tiny kitchen in the apartment became so quiet it was chilling. Margaret placed the USB back on the table next to the envelope containing the DNA test results. With a trembling hand, she unfolded the paper and read each line slowly, trying not to collapse. The baby is not biologically related to Jason, she repeated silently. In front of her, Emily remained curled up, eyes vacant, as if replaying a nightmare over and over in her head. I can't believe it. Emily, how could this happen? Were you forced? Emily nodded slightly, then looked up at her mother with red, sleep-deprived eyes. Her voice was hoarse. I wanted to stay silent forever. I thought, if I just kept going, raised my baby, lived quietly, it would all pass. But he wouldn't stop. You see that now. Margaret bit her lip until it bled. She sat beside her daughter, took her hand. Tell me everything, from the beginning. I need to know it all. Emily took a deep breath, mustering what little strength remained in her frail body. That night was Mr. Howard's birthday party, the CEO. Everyone from the company was there. Jason said, "Let me introduce you to the boss. Who knows, maybe you'll get a department transfer someday." I didn't suspect anything. I even thought he was trying to help my career. Emily paused, swallowing hard. During the party, he handed me a cocktail. I refused, but he said, "Just one drink. Don't embarrass me." I didn't want to cause a scene, so I drank it. A little later, everything started spinning. I told Jason I wasn't feeling well, and he just smiled and said, "Go rest in room 302, I booked it already. I'll come up after you're done." "Emily," Margaret whispered. "I don't remember much. Just waking up in a strange room. Dim lights. Curtains drawn. My clothes were messy. My body ached. Mr. Howard was next to me, naked." Margaret sobbed. "No. It can't be." I panicked, ran into the bathroom. But the door was locked from the outside. Jason never came. Never called. The next morning, I snuck out through the emergency exit. "Emily, why didn't you report it to the police?" She stayed silent for a while, then replied softly, "Who would believe a low-level employee like me over the CEO and his deputy? I knew they'd say I asked for it." Margaret clutched her daughter's hand tightly. "No. I believe you. I won't let this be buried." Emily looked down at her belly, her eyes briefly softening. "When I found out I was pregnant, I thought, maybe this baby could be a way out. It's still my flesh and blood. I could love it, no matter who the father is." Margaret placed a hand on her daughter's belly. "This child is hope. A light in all this darkness." A while later, there was a knock at the door. Emily flinched, her eyes wide with fear. "Don't open it. It could be the press, or someone Jason sent." "Calm down. Let me handle it." Margaret walked to the door and cracked it open. A man stood there. It was Mr. Edward, the owner of the nearby pharmacy and an old friend of her late husband. "Mrs. Margaret. I heard, something happened. Do you need help?" "Mr. Edward," she choked. "My daughter, she was assaulted. And now she's being slandered." He shook his head, voice full of concern. "I've always known Jason was shady. He once scammed a pharmacist down my street. But the media sides with him. He knows how to stage everything. We need a lawyer, or anyone willing to hear the truth." Edward looked at her with hesitation. "I know a young woman, Mary Johnson. She studied law and just opened a small office on Broadway. She might be able to help." Margaret nodded in gratitude, placing her hand over her chest as if clinging to a lifeline. 2 days later, Emily had physically recovered a bit, though her spirit still drifted like a shadow. In the meantime, Margaret arranged to meet Mary Johnson, as Edward had suggested. The law office was just a small room inside an old building, walls faded and windows dusty. But Mary's voice was clear and firm. "Mrs. Margaret, are you absolutely sure your daughter didn't consent? You can listen to this recording. And, here's the DNA test result." Mary listened intently to the recording of Jason pressuring his wife to please the boss for a promotion, her brows furrowing with every second. "He's a real bastard. But unfortunately, this could be dismissed as fake, unless we can verify its source." Margaret said, "The USB was taken directly from Emily's personal laptop. We haven't shared it with anyone else but you." Mary nodded, though her expression remained serious. "I'll need time to verify it. But I'll look into it." That evening, when Margaret returned, she found Emily sitting silently on the floor, holding an old wedding photo. "Mom, do you think, if I die, all of this would just end?" Margaret's blood ran cold. "Emily. Don't say that. I'm so tired. I can't scream anymore. I can't even breathe." Margaret pulled her daughter into a hug, tears streaming down her face. No. You still have me. You still have your baby. We will get through this. Emily fell quiet, resting her head on her mother's shoulder. After a while, she whispered, Jason also said, if I speak out, he'll claim I slept my way up for power. And people will believe him. Because it's so easy to tear a woman down. Margaret gritted her teeth. No one will trample you again. I won't let them. The next morning, the phone rang. A strange woman's voice barked through the line. Emily. You filthy whore. You tried to destroy my family. Margaret snatched the phone. Who is this? I'm Cynthia Howard's wife. My husband had a stroke because of your little slut. You think you're something special? You've got it wrong. My daughter was tricked. Her husband set her up. I'm coming over. Let's see how this so-called loving mother defends her garbage daughter. The call cut off abruptly. Margaret clutched her head, heart pounding. Emily, a storm is coming. Emily said nothing, just stared out the window. Her eyes were vacant, but deep inside, a fire had begun to spark. That afternoon, the sky over New York was heavy and gray, threatening rain. Emily's apartment felt suffocatingly still. Margaret sat panting, exhausted after cleaning dried blood from the floor. On the table, the DNA test and USB remained untouched, silent witnesses, waiting for the day justice would finally speak. Emily sat in the bedroom, gently rubbing her belly. Her eyes followed the dim light flickering in the hallway. The door was ajar, but her mind was wide open, flooded with memories she couldn't shut out. Mom, her voice came, faint. Margaret stepped in. I'm here, sweetheart. I tried to file for divorce. Many times. But every time I brought it up, he threatened me. Jason? Emily nodded. He said, you want to be a single mom? You think people will believe you, a woman who slept with her boss, or me, a respected deputy manager? Margaret squeezed her daughter's hand, her voice shaking with fury. He's a monster. Not a man. I know, but I had no evidence. And I was scared. He said he'd release footage from the party, just clips of me smiling at Mr. Howard. He said, with a few edits, you'll look like a slut. Margaret jumped to her feet, eyes blazing red. He thinks he's a film director. I'll drag him into the light. Emily gave a bitter smile. You think I haven't tried? But no one believes a battered woman who stays with her abuser. They all think, she must have wanted it. Right then, the doorbell rang. Both women froze. Margaret approached the door, heart pounding. A sophisticated woman stood there, draped in a brown fur coat, lips painted crimson, eyes sharp as blades. Is this Emily's residence? She asked, voice dripping with disdain. Emily who? Margaret asked warily. Emily Walker. The woman who stole my husband. She pushed the door open without waiting for an invitation. I'm Cynthia, the lawful wife of Howard Whitmore. Emily stepped out from the bedroom, her face pale. You are. Shut up. Cynthia snapped, storming forward and slapping Emily so hard she staggered backward. You ruined my family. You're crazy. Margaret screamed, rushing to shield her daughter. Your daughter is garbage. You think my husband had a stroke from stress? No. It was her. She seduced him, got pregnant, and now plays the victim. No. I was raped. I was forced. Emily sobbed. Save it. I've got clips, pictures of you with him. Sitting close. Laughing. You think some hick mother like you doesn't understand technology? Cynthia sneered at Margaret, triumphant. Please, just leave. My daughter is pregnant, Margaret pleaded, her hands trembling. Right, pregnant with another woman's husband's child. Cynthia shouted, then spat in Emily's face. Margaret froze in shock. The sheer cruelty left her speechless. Emily clutched her cheek, tears streaming. But the worst wasn't over. A familiar voice echoed from behind. She didn't mean to. Cynthia, calm down. It was Jason. He stood there in a white shirt with 2 buttons undone, hair neatly styled, eyes filled with fake concern. You, Emily gasped. Jason walked in and gently took Cynthia's hand. Don't hit her anymore. Let me handle this. Emily, you should apologize to Cynthia. You've hurt a lot of people. His voice was syrupy sweet, but when his eyes met Margaret's, they were cold as ice. Margaret gripped her daughter's hand. You were standing there, watching that woman hit my child, spit on her, and you said nothing. Ma'am, this is a family matter. I'm trying to mediate. Mediation? You staged this and dragged that woman here to humiliate my daughter. Emily needs to face the consequences of her actions, Jason replied emotionlessly. She's no longer my wife. We're getting a divorce. You bastard. Margaret shouted, her hands trembling violently, but Jason had already turned away, escorting Cynthia out like he'd just finished performing a rehearsed scene. As the door shut behind them, Margaret could no longer stand. Her vision blurred. Everything spun. She collapsed to the floor. Emily screamed, catching her, shaking her desperately, Mom! Mom! Margaret woke up on the couch, her head still dizzy. Emily knelt beside her, wiping her forehead with a warm towel. I'm sorry, Margaret murmured. I feel so helpless. Emily pressed her lips together, trying to keep her voice steady. You've done nothing wrong. You've endured enough suffering in your life. Now it's my turn to rise. Margaret took her daughter's hand, the strength slowly returning to her eyes. No. We rise together. Evil must not win. Emily gave a faint smile. Do you believe? Jason was the one who uploaded that edited clip online. Margaret nodded. I believe it. I know, he cut out the parts showing I was dizzy, stumbling. He left only the footage that made it look like I was flirting. We'll prove it, Margaret said. Emily looked at her mother, a fragile flicker of hope beginning to glow in her eyes. I'll go find someone to help. A lawyer. A journalist. Anyone. Someone out there will listen, Margaret said. Emily nodded. I don't want to die anymore. Margaret held her daughter tightly. And you won't. I swear to you. That night, a message from Jason arrived. Don't think you're smart. The court will grant me custody. I have the video, the witnesses, the lawyers. You've only got one old mother. Emily stared at the screen, gripping her phone. She didn't reply. She turned to Margaret, who was sitting at the table, handwriting a petition. The warm yellow lamp lit her wrinkled but resolute face. I still have my mother. And my mother is my army, Margaret said. Emily broke down in tears, for the first time in days. She clung to her mother as if her entire world had collapsed, but in her arms, something still held firm. 3 days later, it rained in New York. Not heavily, but endlessly, making the streets slick and gray just like Emily's current life. Margaret stood in the kitchen, quietly preparing plain porridge for her daughter. She had just scooped the first spoonful into a bowl when she heard Emily scream from the living room. Mom! Come here. Margaret dropped the spoon and ran out. Emily sat curled up in front of her laptop, her face pale, her hands trembling. What is it, sweetheart? Margaret asked, heart racing. Emily pointed to the screen. A popular social media page was open with a sensational headline. Pregnant seductress destroys 2 high-status families' footage inside. The video had been meticulously edited. It showed Emily at the party, laughing beside Mr. Howard, sitting close, pouring him a drink. Tense music played in the background. Thousands of comments flooded in, most were cruel. Just look at her face. Total fox. She's just a gold digger using the baby to extort money. Wrecked a family and now plays the victim. Emily burst into tears. They've killed me, Mom. There's nowhere left for me to live. No. Don't read it anymore, baby. Turn it off. Margaret wrapped her arms around her daughter, trying to block the screen as if she could shield Emily from the invisible knives stabbing into her heart. He did this. Jason posted the video. We know that, Emily. But we have to stay calm. Suddenly, there was a loud knock at the door. Emily flinched. Margaret went to open it. Standing there was Mrs. Patricia, owner of the fabric store where Margaret used to buy embroidery thread. Mrs. Margaret, she said softly, awkwardly, I know I shouldn't interfere, but I just saw several posts in the mom groups online. They're demanding Emily be kicked out. They even posted your home address. Margaret froze. Our address? How did they get it? Patricia lowered her voice. Someone shared it with a message, if anyone wants to teach this woman how to be a mother, here's your chance. Emily's voice came from behind, Mom, I want to leave. I can't take it anymore. Margaret turned to Patricia. Thank you. Please, don't tell anyone else about this. I'm begging you. Patricia nodded and stepped back. The door closed with the sound of rain tapping against the windowpane. Margaret turned and hugged her daughter tightly. We'll leave New York for a while. Emily shook her head. They'll recognize me no matter where I go. That video is everywhere. At the market people stare. At the grocery store they whisper. I'm like an animal being hunted. That afternoon, Emily received a call from work. She put it on speaker. We have to terminate your contract, Emily, came the cold voice of her manager, Mr. Andrew. Because of that video? Emily asked, her voice cracking. The company can't be associated with such a negative image. We have to protect our brand. But I was set up. I'm the victim. I'm sorry. The board has already made the decision. The call ended. Emily stood frozen. The two women sat in silence on the couch, not saying a word. The stillness felt like a death sentence. Margaret held her daughter's hand. They don't care who you really are. All they want is something to judge. In their eyes, I'm just a whore, Mom, Emily muttered. A pregnant whore. That night, while Margaret was washing dishes, a loud noise exploded outside the door, screaming, shouting, then something heavy crashing against the wall. Come out, you whore. I'll teach you a lesson. Margaret rushed to the living room. Emily cowered in the corner, face ghost white. On the door, bright red paint had been smeared into crude letters. Don't let whores become mothers. A brick rolled across the floor. In the hallway, three women stood: Cynthia, Howard's wife, and two unfamiliar middle-aged women. Open the door. You ruined my family. Today I'll teach you how to be a decent human being. Cynthia screamed. Margaret rushed forward, blocking the door. Get out. You're insane. My daughter's not a criminal. One of the other women, tall with curly hair, shouted, I'm Jennifer. I have a daughter her age. I won't let someone like her disgrace women like us. Emily did nothing wrong. She's the one who was assaulted. Margaret cried. But then one of them kicked the door open. The three women stormed in like predators. Emily screamed as they dragged her into the center of the living room. One grabbed her hair and yanked. Another slapped her repeatedly. You think you're hot stuff, huh? You think that belly protects you? Raising a kid to be trash like you? You slept with someone's husband and now cry. Pathetic. Margaret lunged forward, pushing them away, shielding her daughter with her body. Stop it. That's enough. She's pregnant. Do you want to kill my grandchild? Cynthia slapped Margaret. You're defending her. Is this how you raised her? Margaret didn't fall. She stood there, hair disheveled, arms around her collapsing daughter, blood and tears pooling on the floor. My mom didn't do anything wrong, Emily sobbed. My baby didn't do anything wrong. Margaret whispered, blood trickling from her forehead. Who gave you the right to abuse a pregnant woman? Who are you to judge with fists? Neighbors started gathering. A man's voice rang out, call the police. Someone's attacking a pregnant woman. The women flinched. Cynthia spat, this isn't over. They left. The door slammed shut. Emily lay on the floor. Margaret held her close, her blouse soaked in blood. They both wept, not tears of pain, but of exhaustion. When the police arrived, Margaret told them everything. The officer, a man named Ralph, sighed. This is hard to prosecute. No serious injuries. And no prior reports. You'll need to file a formal complaint. And, don't trust the media. Margaret clenched her fists. I'll file it. First thing tomorrow. Emily whispered, they'll say I made it up again. Ralph looked at the frail girl, her head bruised, her face swollen. He didn't speak, just quietly took notes. Margaret helped Emily to the bedroom. Before closing the door, she turned to Ralph. You're a New Yorker. Do you have a daughter? Yes. She's 7. If one day your daughter goes through something like this, would you stay silent? Ralph stared at her for a long moment. No. Margaret nodded softly. Then don't forget that. 2 days after the assault, as Margaret was changing her bandage, an envelope was slipped under the door. No return address. No note. Just a thin stack of papers with a bold heading. Petition for divorce, Jason Miller, filed October 12. Margaret picked it up, her eyes scanning the cold, impersonal lines. Petitioning for full custody, claiming the wife shows signs of mental instability, posing danger to the unborn child. Mom! Emily stepped out from her room, her hair still damp, dark circles under her eyes. What's going on? Margaret didn't answer. She handed her the papers. Emily read them, lips pressed tightly. Then she laughed, not out of amusement, but from a flood of despair. A painful, broken laugh. He's saying, I'm crazy. I'm a threat to my baby. Emily looked at her mother, eyes brimming with tears. And he's the model father. I'll sue him. I'll find a lawyer, Margaret said firmly. Emily shook her head. What lawyer would take my case? Remember Mary? Has she even replied to your email? Margaret lowered her gaze. Not yet. That afternoon, Emily sat alone on the tiny balcony, despite the cold. Her hand rested on her belly as she whispered. My baby, if one day you read this, don't hate me. I wanted to live. But no one wanted me to. She pulled a piece of paper from her pocket, a handwritten note, its ink smudged in places. It was her suicide letter. In it, she apologized to her mother, to her unborn child, and for being too weak. She walked back inside, straight to the bedroom. Margaret was out at the grocery store, picking up food and painkillers. Emily opened the medicine cabinet and took out a blister pack of sleeping pills. The strong kind. Enough to turn all the pain into an eternal sleep. She looked around the room one last time, a room where she once hung family photos, once hoped for the sound of a baby's laughter. Now, only dried bloodstains and shattered dreams remained. Emily loves you, Mom, she whispered. Then she swallowed the pills, one by one, drinking water after each. She lay down, hand on her belly. Closed her eyes. Margaret came home, holding bags of oranges and eggs. She called out. Emily. I bought your favorite pastries. The chocolate-filled ones you used to beg for as a kid. No response. She set the bags down and walked to the bedroom. The door was locked. Emily. She knocked. No sound. She knocked harder, pounded. Still silence. Sweetheart, open the door. Margaret cried. She didn't wait any longer. Grabbing a broomstick, she slammed it repeatedly into the lock, tears streaming down her face. Please don't. Emily. Please, don't do this. At last, the door burst open. Emily lay motionless on the bed, her face pale, lips bluish. An empty blister pack of pills was beside her pillow. A tear-stained suicide letter lay unfolded. No. Margaret screamed, rushing over to hold her daughter, shaking her, calling out. Emily. Don't leave me. Please. Don't. She ran out and called for an ambulance, her voice trembling. Please. My daughter. She took sleeping pills, hurry. At Mercy Hospital, Margaret sat in the hallway, her hands stained with blood, her clothes wrinkled, her eyes fixed on the ER doors. A young nurse with a name badge that read Isabel came out. Mrs. Margaret, she asked gently. Yes, that's me. The doctors are trying to resuscitate Emily. Her heart is beating again, but it's very weak. You called just in time. Will she live? We're doing everything we can. But if it happens again, it'll be much harder to save her. Margaret nodded, then collapsed into the chair, her head bowed into her hands. Please, don't let my daughter die. 2 hours later, the head doctor, Mr. William, came out. We've stabilized her condition. But, psychologically, she needs immediate care. Emily is suffering from severe prenatal depression. And the baby? Margaret asked. The fetal heartbeat is still strong. But we'll need to monitor them closely. Margaret gripped his hand and repeated, I'll do whatever it takes. I won't lose her again. 3 days later, Emily opened her eyes. They were unfocused, her voice barely audible. Mom. My baby girl, Margaret leaned in, kissing her hand. I'm right here. No one's going to hurt you anymore. Emily turned her face away. I don't deserve this. I'm weak. I'm a burden. No. Don't say that. You're stronger than millions of people out there. But he still wants to take my child from me. I won't let that happen. One afternoon, as Margaret was folding blankets in the hospital room, someone knocked. A well-dressed man entered, carrying a leather briefcase. It was Mr. Lawrence, Jason's lawyer. Mrs. Margaret, I'm here in Goodwill, he said, pulling out documents. Emily can't receive visitors. She just survived a suicide attempt. I understand. I'm only here to deliver a settlement offer. Settlement? Jason is willing to forego custody, if Emily signs this paper admitting she had a consensual relationship with Mr. Howard and agrees not to pursue any legal action. Margaret was stunned. What did you just say? This is a win-win solution. No court, no more scandal, and the child stays with its mother. Get out. If you have any humanity left, don't come back. As you wish. But in court, we'll have witnesses, video evidence, and a strong legal team. Margaret escorted Lawrence to the door and said with unwavering clarity. You think money can buy everything? You're wrong. I'll find someone who still knows the difference between right and wrong. Lawrence shrugged and walked down the hospital hallway. That night, Emily looked at her mother and whispered. I'm sorry, for trying to leave everything behind. Margaret held her hand. You're still here, and that means there's still hope. I'm still here. And I haven't lost yet. Emily smiled faintly. Mom, when I passed out, I dreamed of a white sky. But something held me back, it was your voice. And I'll keep holding that line, Margaret said. Until you're strong again. Until my grandchild is born. Until we all stand in the light together. New York had turned cold overnight. Wind seeped through the cracks of the Mercy Hospital windows, bringing with it a biting chill that mirrored Margaret's inner storm. She sat beside Emily's bed, watching her sleep under the sedation. Her sunken eyes, her frail body under the hospital blanket reminded Margaret of her late husband, helpless, abandoned by a system that didn't care. Margaret gently placed a hand on her daughter's belly. My grandchild. Grandma won't let anyone hurt your mother. The next morning, Margaret left the hospital early. In her hand was a small fabric bag holding the DNA results, the USB with Jason's recording, a copy of the divorce papers, and the suicide letter Emily had written. Her first stop, Johnson Law Firm, the prestigious office where Jason had once hired his attorney. Sorry, no appointment, said the blonde receptionist, her lipstick crimson, her voice robotic. I'm only asking for 5 minutes. This concerns the life of a pregnant woman. The honor of a family. Leave your documents. We'll review them later. No. You don't understand. Jason Miller is slowly killing my daughter. The receptionist pressed a button for security. A tall man appeared, placing a firm hand on Margaret's shoulder. Ma'am, please leave. Margaret stepped back, her eyes red. Fine, but when the truth comes out, don't say I didn't warn you. Her next stop was Smith and Associates, whose sign outside read, Justice is for everyone. A young lawyer in a gray suit and black-rimmed glasses stepped out. I'm sorry, ma'am. We don't take cases with negative media exposure. Jason Miller is a former client. I can't go against him. So that slogan just wall decoration? Margaret asked, her gaze razor-sharp. The lawyer said nothing. He couldn't look her in the eye. Margaret went from office to office. 10 firms in 3 days. Every time she was turned away, she sat at a nearby park bench for hours, resting her tired legs, then rose and tried again. At the train station, a hunched old man selling pastries, Mr. Matthew, noticed her daily routine and asked, "What are you looking for, Mrs. Margaret?" "I'm looking for someone with a conscience." He shook his head. "In New York, that's rarer than gold." On the 4th day, rain poured from the sky. Margaret stood beneath the awning of the provincial courthouse. Her coat was soaked through, her hair plastered to her forehead. In her hand was the same old fabric bag, now stained with ink where the name, Walker, Emily, was printed. Someone walked past and looked at her as if she were homeless. A group of young law students snickered behind her, "Look at that old lady trying to sue the world." Margaret said nothing. She just stood there, eyes distant, as if waiting for someone. That night, with nowhere else to go, she decided to rest in a small park near Broadway. It was still raining. The bench was cold. She pulled the fabric bag over her legs and looked up at the sky. God, if you can still hear a mother's prayer, send me a sign. Just a little light. A gust of wind blew through, carrying a soggy flyer that landed near her feet. It had a heart symbol and an ad for a small family law office. At the bottom, it read, "Free consultations for victims of domestic violence, attorney Lauren Jameson." Margaret picked it up. Her eyes lit up. The next day, with the last of her strength, she found the address on the flyer, an old 3-story building with a wooden door and a hand-painted sign. She lifted her hand to knock, but her legs gave out. She collapsed onto the steps. The bag flew from her hand, papers scattering in the rain. A voice cried out from inside, "Oh my God! Someone help her!" A young woman rushed out, brown hair tied high, a beige coat billowing behind her. She dropped to her knees beside Margaret. "Ma'am? Are you okay?" Margaret tried to speak. I need a lawyer. Lauren. I'm Lauren, the woman shouted. Someone call an ambulance. At the emergency clinic, Margaret regained consciousness after receiving 4 fluids. The same young woman sat beside her, holding her hand, eyes filled with tears. "You're Mrs. Margaret, right?" Lauren asked softly, her voice trembling. Margaret nodded. I'm Lauren Jameson. I was in your 7th grade class at Lincoln Elementary School. The year I got bullied for breaking the music room window, you were the only one who believed me." Margaret's eyes widened. Lauren, the little girl who loved drawing whales. Lauren laughed through her tears. "Yes. You really remember? I thought you'd forgotten me. I never forget the children who cry alone. I'm a lawyer now. I'm going to help you. I swear." Margaret squeezed her hand, her voice choked. "God sent you to us." That evening, in Lauren's tiny office, Margaret opened the paper bag and laid out the DNA test, the audio recording, the divorce papers, and Emily's suicide letter. Lauren examined each item carefully, murmuring as she worked. "This USB. I'll verify its authenticity. I know a video data analysis expert, Mr. Robert Grant. He used to work for NBC. If there was any editing, he'll find it." Margaret nodded. "She's close to giving birth. She almost gave up on life. She needs her name cleared before the baby is born." Lauren held her hand. "That child will be born in truth. Not in the lies of a cowardly father." She lost her job. Was beaten. Humiliated. Betrayed. But she stayed alive for her baby. "Now it's time we fight for her," Lauren said. Margaret asked, her voice faltering, "Lauren, is there anyone out there who still believes in us? You don't need the world to believe. You just need one lawyer. And lucky for you, you found the right one." In that tiny office with peeling white walls and a flickering desk lamp, the documents Margaret and Lauren had gathered lay across the table. Lauren pulled her chair closer, holding the USB. "You're sure this is the original file?" "Yes. I got it from my daughter's laptop. She never shared it with anyone else." "All right. I'll take it to Mr. Grant first thing in the morning. He's a national veteran. Nothing gets past him." Margaret clasped her hands tightly. "Do we have enough time, Lauren? Her due date's just weeks away." Lauren looked straight into her former teacher's eyes. "We'll have to move fast. But I promise if there's even a single crack in Jason's story, I'll tear it wide open. We don't just want to break the story. We need to expose the director behind the script." Lauren nodded. "I'll start drafting the petition for retrial. But to make it stick, we'll need stronger evidence. I'm thinking about a witness, someone who worked with Jason. Someone on the inside who knows the truth." Margaret sat silently, then whispered, "There's someone named Megan. She used to be Jason's media assistant. She once delivered something to Emily's place, and she always avoided eye contact with me. She might know something. Do you have a way to contact her?" "No. But I know she often has lunch at a cafe on 5th Avenue, Starlight Cafe." Lauren nodded. "I'll go there. If she says anything, I'll record her statement. We need to build a solid case." The next afternoon, Starlight Cafe was quiet. Lauren sat alone at a window table, wearing a beige coat, her hair down, eyes scanning the door. A woman in her 30s, brown hair, black blouse. Megan entered and ordered an espresso, then took a seat in the corner. Lauren stood and walked over. "Excuse me, are you Megan?" Megan looked up. "Who's asking?" "Lauren Jameson. I'm a lawyer. I'm here about Emily Walker." Megan immediately tensed up, eyes darting. "I'm not involved. I don't know anything." Lauren sat down across from her. "I'm not here to force anything. But I don't think you're a bad person. And I believe Jason made you stay quiet. Megan bit her lip. I need this job. You'll lose more than a job if you help a man hurt others. Can your conscience sleep at night? After a moment, Megan pulled out her phone, hands trembling. She played an audio clip. Jason's voice came through, clear and smug. She's such a dumb bitch. I only had to take her once and the old man was hooked. And now she's playing the martyr mom card. The media eats up drama like this. Lauren looked at Megan. I'm going to enter this into our retrial file. Will you agree to be a witness? Megan lowered her head. I'll do it. But please, keep me anonymous. I'm scared. We'll request witness protection. Thank you, Megan. You just saved a mother's life. 3 days later, Margaret visited Emily at the hospital. The sun was out, the air softer than in days past. Emily sat propped up by pillows, holding her belly. Her eyes were still shadowed, but she looked more alert. Mom, you're back. I just met with Lauren. She's incredible. She got a recording of Jason bragging about setting you up with Mr. Howard. Emily's eyes widened. Really? I hadn't told you this yet, but Lauren was one of my students. In 7th grade, she was bullied for breaking a window in the music room. She cried, she got blamed, but now, she's standing with you. Emily pressed her lips together, tears sliding silently down her cheeks. Do you think justice really exists, Mom? Margaret took her hand. Yes. But it comes slowly. Very slowly. And sometimes, it needs someone to call its name. Emily nodded faintly. I'll testify. Even if no one believes me. I just need to say it all. I'll be standing beside you. Just like I stood between you and those slaps. That night, in the small law office, Lauren was finalizing the retrial documents. Next to her, Mr. Robert, the video expert, paused each frame of the clip Jason had posted online. See here. Robert pointed. The lighting shifts unnaturally. Frame rate inconsistencies. They spliced a clip of Emily leaning probably dizzy and overlaid it with a different light filter. Can you prove that? I'll write a full technical report, sign it, and if needed, I'll testify in court. Lauren smiled. Thank you. We're on the right track. The next morning, Margaret and Lauren filed the retrial petition at the New York Civil Court. The clerk receiving the documents was a man named Lewis, around 40, with a thick beard and watchful eyes. This case. Jason Miller's involved, he asked. Yes. We're filing a motion to reopen the divorce and custody case, along with evidence showing the defendant Jason fabricated evidence, edited video, and manipulated the media, Lauren stated firmly. Lewis skimmed through the file. Any third-party verification? We have a recording of the defendant, a witness statement, a technical report from a national media expert, and a DNA test. He looked up at the two women, one elderly and trembling, the other young and steady, yet clearly aware she was standing against power. Lewis gave a slow nod. I'll forward this to the presiding judge. But, be ready. Jason has strong allies. Lauren didn't blink. And I have the truth. That night, Margaret sat alone in Emily's old apartment. It was still messy, still smelled of mold, but she wasn't afraid anymore. She opened the cupboard and took out the small wooden box, the family heirloom she once planned to give Emily. Her fingers brushed the aged silver surface. My dear grandchild, when you are born, your grandmother will pass this to you. Not because it's beautiful, but because it bears witness to a bloodline that never gave up. The phone rang. It was Lauren. Mrs. Margaret. I have good news. What is it, dear? The court has accepted the retrial. We have a hearing. Margaret leapt to her feet. My daughter will finally be heard. And justice, Lauren said, voice warm like the first sunlight of winter, will finally be called by its rightful name. Courtroom 4 of the New York Civil Court was packed that morning. Every seat filled, photographers pushing in for shots, flashes going off non-stop. Emily sat in the front row, visibly thinner, her hair tied back, clutching her mother's hand tightly. Margaret wore her old gray outfit, but her face glowed with unwavering faith, something she hadn't dared to exhale in months. Beside them sat Lauren in a dark suit, her high ponytail neat, her eyes sharp as steel. Every document, every file, every statement, she had organized them with the precision of a soldier. She wasn't just a lawyer, she was a former student carrying the honor of a family dragged through mud. "Stay confident," Lauren whispered to Margaret. "They think you're just an old woman. They're in for a surprise." Margaret smiled. This old teacher never believed in the word hopeless. That word is for quitters. The court clerk announced, "Plaintiff Emily Walker and counsel, please enter. Defendant Jason Miller and counsel, please enter." Jason walked in like a movie star, light gray suit, neatly styled hair, his expression cold and unmoved. He glanced at Emily with eyes that held no remorse. Behind him sat Cynthia, eyes like needles, chin lifted high as if attending a theater show instead of a legal hearing. The trial began. Presiding over the case was Judge Lisa Morgan, a stern-looking middle-aged woman with sharp eyes and a firm voice, known for handling high-profile media cases. She flipped through the file. Case number 2357. Motion for retrial. Counterclaim by plaintiff against defendant for falsification, fabrication, defamation. Request to dismiss custody dispute. Lauren stood, her voice ringing clear, "Your Honor, I present a series of evidence proving that my client, Emily Walker, was harmed by her own husband. I submit the first audio recording Jason coercing his wife to use her body for his promotion." Judge Lisa nodded. "Play it." Lauren inserted the USB. The audio filled the courtroom. "You want me promoted? Just please the old man for one night. No one will ever know. Be smooth, and by morning you're still the perfect wife." The entire courtroom fell silent. Jason closed his eyes, his fists clenched. Lauren continued, "Next, Your Honor, we present the testimony of Ms. Megan Sanders, former media assistant to Jason Miller." The door opened. Megan walked in. Her hands trembled, but her voice was firm. "I heard Jason, with my own ears, brag about taking his wife to that party so Mr. Howard would take a liking to her. Later, he told me to prepare a smear article against Emily in case she made a fuss." Lauren stood up. "Objection. This witness has no direct involvement." Lauren smiled calmly. "But your client admitted Megan was a former employee. And her statement is backed by a valid audio recording. Please listen." Another recording played. "That dumb wife of mine. Took her once and the old guy fell like a ripe banana. Now she's pulling the whole holy martyr mom act." Whispers filled the room. Lauren continued, "Your Honor, not only did the defendant coerce his wife, he also doctored a video to defame her. I submit a technical report by Mr. Robert Grant, expert in video analysis." An elderly man with silver hair and thick glasses stepped forward. "I served as an editing supervisor at NBC for 15 years. The video Jason released has manipulated lighting, overlaid frames, inconsistent frame rates. It's a manufactured product." Robert displayed a slide. A large screen showed video frames footage of Emily sitting, cut from 3 separate scenes, assembled into one sequence of intimacy. The woman in the video, Emily, was intoxicated, not in control. Lighting angles from 2 directions prove the footage was spliced. I stand fully behind this analysis and will testify under oath." Judge Lisa flipped through the file. "Is there a DNA report?" Lauren placed it on the desk. "The child is not biologically related to Jason Miller. He knew this from the beginning, yet used the baby as leverage." Lauren stood, trying to argue. Your Honor, Jason doesn't deny the recording. But he was under emotional stress. He was provoked. That can't be interpreted as premeditated conduct. Judge Lisa frowned. He doctored videos, orchestrated their release, employed technical editing, and organized a physical assault through others. Provoked? Lauren continued, we also have photographs from the assault, Emily dragged outside, her hair pulled, punched in the abdomen. These were taken by police and verified. Judge Lisa examined the images. And who orchestrated the attack? Lauren turned toward the gallery. Mrs. Cynthia Whitmore, wife of Mr. Howard, hired the attackers. Police statements from 2 of the assailants confirm she gave the order. Gasps filled the courtroom. Cynthia stood up, shouting, "That's a lie. I came to talk, not to attack anyone." A police officer stepped forward. We have hallway security footage. Mrs. Whitmore was present. Shortly after, 3 women entered the apartment. Emily was later hospitalized with visible injuries. Judge Lisa banged her gavel. Order. Margaret squeezed her daughter's hand tightly. Emily's eyes filled with tears. Lauren stood firm, a pillar in the storm. Judge Lisa took a deep breath. After reviewing all files, visual evidence, witness testimony, and technical data, the court rules as follows. 1. Emily Walker is found to be a victim of coercion, severe emotional and physical trauma due to the defendant's staged and falsified actions. 2. Jason Miller's conduct constitutes defamation, fabrication of evidence, false accusations, bodily harm, and abuse of media for personal gain. 3. The defendant is prohibited from contacting the plaintiff or the child for a period of 10 years and is stripped of all custodial rights. 4. Cynthia Whitmore is fined for organizing the assault of a pregnant woman, public defamation, and inciting malicious media coverage. She banged the gavel. Court adjourned. Emily broke into tears. She clung to her mother, trembling. Mom, we won. We actually won. Margaret stroked her hair, voice choked. No, sweetheart. Truth won. Lauren walked up and gently placed her hand on Emily's shoulder. You're the bravest woman I've ever met. And from this moment forward, no one gets to call you anything but a mother. The courtroom emptied. Emily sat silently in the plaintiff's waiting room, her hands still trembling though the hearing had ended. Margaret held her tightly, her arm never leaving her daughter's shoulder, as if letting go would cause everything to vanish like dust. Mom. I'm afraid this is just a dream, Emily whispered. Margaret pulled her closer. If it is, then the whole world is dreaming with you. The door opened. Lauren entered, holding a copy of the court ruling, her face radiant but composed. Emily, this is the official order. We did it. Custody is yours. No one can take it from you now. Emily reached out to take the papers, but as her hand touched them, she winced, her fingers curling. Mom, my stomach, it hurts. Margaret panicked. What kind of pain? How bad? Like, something squeezing hard. Tight and sharp. Mom, I think I'm going into labor. Lauren instantly pulled out her phone. I'm calling an ambulance. Don't panic. Emily clutched her mother's hand, sweat pouring down her forehead. No. Not now. I'm not ready. Mom. You couldn't have picked a better moment, sweetheart. Margaret helped Emily lie down on the bench, wiping her brow. Today you were vindicated. And your baby is choosing to enter a world where justice just came alive again. At Mercy Hospital, everything moved in a blur. Doctors and nurses rushed Emily into the delivery room. Margaret followed the stretcher, only to be stopped by a nurse. Sorry, only medical staff can enter. Please, I'm her mother. She doesn't have anyone else. We understand. But rules are rules. We'll call you in when it's over. Lauren placed a hand on Margaret's shoulder. I'm here with you. Don't worry. Margaret looked at the closed delivery room door, then turned to Lauren, her eyes red. She's been through enough. Please, don't let her suffer anymore. Inside the delivery room, Emily gasped for breath, her hand clutching the bedsheet. A female doctor, Amanda Fletcher, stood beside her, signaling to the nurses. Prep the instruments. She's at 8 centimeters. It's progressing quickly. Emily shook her head over and over. I'm scared. I don't think I can do this. Amanda leaned down, locking eyes with her. Emily, I read your file. I know what you've been through. And I'm telling you, if you survived all that, then giving birth is just the final step of a revolution. Emily laughed through tears. You made the entire system listen to your voice. Now it's time for your child to hear her mother's. Emily nodded, taking a deep breath. Sweetheart. Mommy's waiting for you. Out in the hallway, Margaret paced back and forth like a shadow. Lauren sat on a bench, still holding the verdict in her hand like a shield of protection. Suddenly, the door swung open. A young nurse with a pixie cut beamed brightly. Congratulations. Ms. Emily gave birth to a baby girl at 5:42 p.m. She's healthy. And she cried really loud. Margaret felt breathless. She brought a hand to her mouth, eyes brimming with tears. She's really healthy. Perfectly healthy. She weighs 7 pounds, 1 ounce, and is 19.3 inches long. And she has big eyes just like her mother. Lauren was overjoyed. Can Ms. Margaret go in now? Yes. Only her. Emily's really eager to see her mom. Margaret stepped in. The room was spotless white, carrying a faint scent of milk and antiseptic. Emily lay in bed, pillows stacked high behind her back. On her chest was a tiny bundle, squirming gently her daughter. Mom, Emily's voice trembled. She came into the world at just the right time. Just when the light broke through. Margaret approached and gently touched the baby's hand. She's so warm, like the sun in the middle of a New York winter. Emily gave a tired smile. I haven't named her yet. But Lauren, she just sent me a message. She suggested a name. What name? Hope. Margaret froze. Hope. Yes. Hope, because she's living proof that we didn't fall. Proof that justice isn't dead. Margaret sat on the edge of the bed, cradling her granddaughter. Sweetheart, you are the faith I thought I had lost. The baby whimpered softly, then fell silent when pressed against her grandmother's chest. Mom, Emily whispered, if it weren't for you, I wouldn't be alive. Margaret choked up. As long as you're alive. I'll keep fighting. Never forget that. 2 days later, in Emily's apartment, once a place of nightmares, now freshly cleaned sunlight poured through the window, casting warmth over a small cradle bought with financial aid from the Women's Protection Fund. Lauren arrived, carrying a bouquet of white tulips and an envelope. This is the official birth certificate. Name, Hope Walker. No father's name listed. And none needed. Margaret took it. Thank you, dear. Emily beamed. She has my nose. But her eyes look like my mother's. Lauren sat beside the cradle, watching the sleeping baby. She's proof that women don't just endure. They rise. Margaret smiled. Thank you for not forgetting your old teacher. Lauren held her hand. I never forgot. You were the first to teach me that the truth doesn't need believers to exist. That night, Margaret wrote a letter and placed it in a drawer in Hope's room. My dearest granddaughter. The day you were born, the whole city was still whispering behind our backs. But I didn't listen to them. I only heard your powerful, vibrant cry. I fought with old legs, calloused hands, and a heart that once wanted to die alongside my daughter. But tonight, as you sleep peacefully in your cradle, I know, it was all worth it. Love, my dear, isn't just hugs and kisses. It's standing up when the one you love can't take another step. And I'll always be there. Your grandma, Margaret Walker. The next morning, Margaret, Emily, and Lauren stood together beneath the soft light of early spring. The three of them looked at baby Hope, wrapped in a hand-embroidered blanket, the very one Margaret had made the night before she traveled to New York. "Remember, Mom?" Emily asked. "You once said, this blanket was passed down through generations. And now, it has found new arms to carry it on." Lauren raised her camera. "Let me take a photo." 3 generations, one new beginning. They stood close together. Emily held her baby, Margaret placed her arm around her daughter, and Lauren clicked the shutter. Sunlight poured through the window, casting their shadows on the floor, 3 figures merging into one solid, unbroken shape. And in that moment, there were no more lies, no more judgmental stares, no more Jason, no more Cynthia. Only love remained, and a new life named Hope. This story is a powerful testament that no matter how deeply the truth is buried, it can still emerge if we are strong enough to seek it. The greatest lesson here is that love and belief have the power to overcome all injustice. An elderly mother, a wounded daughter, and a once fragile student, 3 seemingly ordinary people came together to dismantle an entire system built on deceit. Justice doesn't arrive on its own, but it will rise again when someone dares to call its name with their whole heart.
If you enjoyed this story, we invite you to give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Your support motivates us to keep bringing heartwarming stories almost every day. We are very grateful for your support. See you soon.